Alright, so this is going to be a brand new build series, and I'm going to be building this thing right here. This is going to be a sort of a fancy little radiator cover for my room that I've recently just redone. So I want to add a nice little touch, mostly just for like shelving and stuff, you know, a little extra space, maybe have some plants and stuff on it. But I'm going to construct it out of MDF. It's going to be 22.5 inches tall. It's going to be about 3 feet long, just because that's just how long my radiator is, and that'll give me a little bit of space to still be able to work with it and everything, turn it on, turn it off, whatever, that kind of stuff. And then I kind of want to try to do some sort of grate on the front, so I'll probably just end up cutting a big hole in it, in the face of it, or maybe I just won't even put a face on it at all. I really haven't even decided that, but I'd like to do something, because you're really not even going to see the front of it from how I have my room set up. But I definitely want to add some sort of ventilation system out through the front of the cover. And then in the top, which is only going to be 10.5 inches deep, I'll have to figure something out. So I'll get all the material and stuff set up, and then we'll kind of just start going from there. Alright, so we got the first couple of things out and ready. That's going to be the first piece of MDF that I am going to be slicing up a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and measure to see if it's going to be plenty big enough, plenty wide enough for that 10.5 inch depth that I am going for. And it is a little over, it's about 13 inches longer than I want it to be. So that'll be good. I'll get a pencil or something to mark off what I want in terms of this seems to be a pretty square piece of product, so I don't really have to square it off, or just want to adjust the camera a little bit here. So as I was saying, this is already a fairly square piece of product, and by square, I don't mean that all four sides are exactly the same length. I mean that all of the sides are straight enough for what I am looking for. That is what I mean by square. When I say that, when you hear anyone say that they're squaring something off, they're basically just making the corners and everything, the lines, perfectly 90 degrees and straight. So do a 10.5 inch mark there, and I'll spin it around. I think it would help if I got the 3-foot measurement first, and then I can just put that there, and then all I'd have to do is come out to here and do that. So I got my 3 marks. I got 2 at 10.5 inches depth, and then I've got the last one at the length that I want. So what I am going to do is, I don't think I'm going to cut it on camera. I'm just going to kind of show you guys the afterwards of that. So I've got the length cut at 3 feet, give or take. Now I'm going to line myself up on that mark there and this mark over here, and then that will give me plenty of space, or that'll at least give me the kind of cut that I want. But what I'm going to do, apart from angle you down a little bit, there we go. What I'm gonna do to sort of help myself cut a perfectly straight line, I'm gonna measure over from the line that I have 1.5 inches. And that is where I'm going to clamp my board to. So that way I can get a good straight cut. Now why I'm doing that is because when you're using a skill saw, right, there is 1.5 inches from the blade to the outside here. So if you want to have some sort of guard or some sort of marker, some sort of guide, I should say, on whatever you're cutting, you measure over the distance from the blade to either side of the saw, and it just so happens that 1.5 inches is the distance from the blade to this outside edge. So by setting it 1.5 inches, I'll be able to ride the blade exactly where I want it. So that is why I'm doing this. That's just a little thing. Makes it easier, just to offset whatever, you know. For anyone who didn't know, you know, I know the people that have been doing this shit for decades probably already know that, but just for anyone that's just getting started like I am, that is a little sort of a helpful tip that I really feel helps, really feel works, and you don't need any sort of special tool to do it. I mean, a lot of people will probably say that you do, but you really don't. Just a couple clamps, or even if you don't have any clamps, right, you could still take a straight piece of wood and like screw it to whatever you're working on, and then rip your cut or whatever, you know. But the clamps, they're not necessary, but they definitely make it a little easier. Now, the hard part is I gotta figure out how to cut this without freaking killing myself, because this shit is kind of dangerous and kind of sketchy, and I don't know. Alright, there we go. We have a relatively straight cut piece of product. And what I'm going to do now is just measure to... Shit. Is this the piece I need right here? Did I cut off? Alright, so this is the right piece right here. I was looking at that thinking, god dang, that's a little too small, but this is the cutoff piece. We'll certainly try to find a place for that earlier. You definitely got to keep track of, something I got to get better with, is keeping track of shit that falls on the floor. But also keeping track of what piece I actually need for the project that I'm working on. So, now that we have, and it's also good to double check too either way, just because you never know. I could have thought, oh wow, that's like 6 3/4 inches, 6 1/4. 6 3/4 is a lot different than 6 1/4. But right now, so that we've got the 10.5 top, right? That's done. I can cut a hole in that for ventilation or whatever, paint it. It's 3 feet long. Now I got to work on. I'm going to work on the legs, which are going to be 22.5 inches tall, to kind of give me enough room. Oh, that's 17. That's not going to be tall enough. I'm going to have to go get another piece of MDF. Unless about 35. I don't think I... I do think it would look... Yeah, it would be too much of an overhang, though. You know, I don't want that much of an overhang. So, I'm going to go get another piece of MDF and cut 2 legs out of it. Alright, I don't know how well you can see these lines, but I have both legs marked out exactly how I want them. I did sort of just one giant line across, and then I split it in half. This first measurement here, I went a little too long, about an inch too long. I went at 22.5, and I measured 23.5, but it was a good thing I caught it before I cut it. So that is one thing you always got to watch out for, is the famous saying, measure twice, cut once. You always got to be, especially if it's something that you want to have like as close to, you know, perfection as possible. If you're just roughing it in and it doesn't matter, and it's going to get covered up again, or if it's going to get covered up with something else, you can kind of cheat it a little bit either way. But with something that's, I don't know, it's certain things you can cheat, I feel, in construction, and other things you can't. 90% of them you really can't, but there's a couple things that you can kind of MacGyver together and still be perfectly acceptable. So this is one of those things that I don't think I'd be able to MacGyver. If it were like just like a 1/16 of an inch, yes, I would be fine with that. But a whole inch, no, that is not, for me personally, that's not really acceptable. I want it to be as close to the original measurement that I had mapped out as possible. So again, there's some things you can, and there's some things you really can't, depending on what you're doing and what you're making. If it's just something for you, just do it for you. So after a while of trying to figure out how I want to do this, this is basically how I've figured this out. Because it's going over a radiator, there's that little tube that comes out, the pipe that comes off the radiator, that you can use to like turn it on and off and adjust how much heat is coming out of it. So that's what this is for. I took probably way too long figuring out how I need to do it, how I need to get this centered, and now it's at a point where I think I can just cut and be fine and screw everything together, dry fit it, and then paint it. So that's what I'm gonna do now. Get my saw, step over the big pile of shit on the floor that I will inevitably add to. Alright, with this being cut, I think that signifies the end of the cutting. Now I just got to put everything together, dry fit these pieces, and then paint them if I like how it fits and I like how it looks. And I'll get to that right now, and I'll show you guys the result of that. For fastening this all together, I'm going to be using some of these Grip Right. These are drywall screws, but they're 3 inches. So I'm going to be using them at this probably, it's not going up on a wall. I know there's probably going to be people that are like, oh, don't use drywall screws, but this is my project. I'll use what I have available. I really don't feel like going out to buy a whole box of proper screws if I'm only going to be using like 3 per side or something, you know. So drywall screws are fine. I'm going to be painting over them anyways. There's not going to be a whole lot of weight or pressure or anything on here, so I feel like 3-inch drywall screws will be perfectly adequate for this project. Alright, so this is where I'm at right now. This is the full thing built. I know it kind of looks ugly with the screws, but I don't mind. It's not being sold. I'm not selling it to anyone. I didn't build it for anyone other than myself, so I don't care about that. I am my own client, so that's fine for me. What I ended up doing is just putting this board on. This is probably 5 inches long. If I knew where my tape measure was, I would double confirm with that. But this was the original drawing, and as you can see, it did not end up looking anything like the drawing. But that's fine. You know, it takes took a little bit of artistic redesign to do it. Once I get some paint on it, it'll be fine. But I added this board on the front just to kind of, for aesthetics, and also for some extra support so the legs don't wobble around all that much. And then if I can spin it, on the back here I've also installed this extra bit of padding here just to add some more support to the legs and stuff, and another place to screw in. And I did the same thing on the other side just to add again a little more thickness to this, and then add a little bit more, because these are screwed in to the outside as well as the top, so everything should be together. And again, this is not going to be moving very much once I have it installed where I want to put it. I've just got to clean it up a little bit, maybe put some joint compound or something in the screw holes that I don't want seen, and then just give it some paint and it'll be ready to go in. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'll probably make another little update once it's all painted and actually installed, and kind of show you guys what it looks like. So, but that'll be for another video. So thank you guys so much for watching, and until then, peace.